Raghunath, are you ready for this?
What?
The wisdom of the sages trainings that are going on
Where?
at the Eco Village, the Govardhan Eco Village in India,
Why?
to totally transform your life spiritually.
Who?
You, me, Radha Swami's going to be there. Other great teachers are going to be there. Lots of cool people.
How?
You go to wisdomofthesages.com/events. You find all the information there.
Haribo.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Mara's house. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kastuvidas. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Thursday's study of the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Nice try. It's only my day off.
Good morning. It's almost like I do that purposely, and I just don't. I'm just off a day.
Especially when you pause, you try to figure it out, and then you get it wrong. I
just got to. Okay, how are you?
But maybe
we made it back.
Oh yeah.
I mean, actually, we didn't make it back to my house. We just pulled over and stayed at Mara's house.
You don't want to drive too late.
I know.
Well,
we made it
like
back
that.
before 10, and I got pulled over by a cop while talking to Bobby Marchand.
Okay.
And I didn't get a ticket. What do you think about that?
Good for you.
I know. Feel good. There's nothing better than getting pulled over and not getting a ticket.
You don't think not getting pulled over is better than that?
Oh,
yes. It's one of those things you don't appreciate. Anyway, we're here on Death Week. Death Week is sort of like gearing up for Halloween, I guess. That's why Kostuba picked it up. We're our nuggets.
It has nothing to do with Halloween.
Nothing to do with Halloween?
Has everything to do with the Bhagavatam chapter that we're reading.
All right. Well, a lot of things have to do with the Bhagavatam, but you chose Death Week.
Well, because
anyway, whatever it is, we're doing
he dies.
meditations on our temporality this week to help us focus and live our life to the fullest.
Okay.
But we had a very full experience yesterday at Kostuba's house.
We did.
Me and Mara drove down breakneck speeds and got there just in time to see Radhanath Swami. We had lunch with Radhanath Swami. It was great. And then we went on a pilgrimage to the Upper West Side where Srila Prabhupada stayed when he first came to New York. And you know what was great about that little, Kostuba set up an entire like a little tour. And we'd walk to the places that Prabhupada went when he first came into New York, because yesterday was the anniversary of Prabhupada coming to New York City. Is that it, Kostuba?
Yeah, I mean, he had arrived in New York City, originally a month or so earlier, and then he went out to Pennsylvania for a month or so.
Isn't it interesting that Prabhupada went to Pennsylvania? In the middle of like nowhere, Butler, which is where Tom Essig lives right now.
Because that's where his visa sponsor, was living. So
yeah, in the old days, you needed maybe today too. I don't know how it works with visas, but he had a sponsor.
Yeah, there's that heartbreaking. There's that film, You Ever Well Wisher, about Prabhupada.
Yeah,
and there's that scene where Sally Agarwal, who was the wife of his sponsor, she was like a Western Pennsylvania woman who had married an Indian man, and right.
You know what? I haven't like studied any of those.
Why is she named Agarwal?
I was like, why is her name Agarwal? It's like a Brahmin name or something. But that's why her name is Sally Agarwal.
I think Agarwals are business people from it. Yeah, but in any case, So I think the Agarwals, who I don't know the name of the husband, the Agarwal husband and the family, but his parents had met Prabhupada in India and said, well, we have a son in Pennsylvania. Prabhupada was just trying to get into America. He had nobody to help him, And so he came and then he went there and he stayed, and he just kind of blew Sally Agarwal's mind. She had never met a man like that, but he just entered her life for about a month. And and in that film, she says, and that month was the best month of my life or something like that. Remember that?
But you know what? I don't remember that movie. I've seen it a million times in the old days, like 35 years ago. Is it a good movie? Have you ever watched
It's
it
a great
recently?
movie. I haven't watched it recently, but it was a great movie.
All
I
right,
remember.
YouTube search that today. Your ever well wisher,
Yeah.
and
And
that is on. Look on YouTube. I'm sure it's there.
but there's a scene in that where she says, you know, he's 70 years old. He had 2 heart attacks coming over on the boat. And then he leaves. He had never been outside of India.
First of all, it's my
Had no
biggest
money.
nightmare to be on a boat for 28 days.
Okay.
That
But he was leaving their home and going to New York City all alone. And it just broke her heart. Like, what's going to happen to him? You know, like, you know, he doesn't know New York City. He doesn't have any money. He's just leaving. And she was like, so it just like kind of broke her heart to see him go, you know. But yesterday was the 58th anniversary of that day that he arrived in
Well,
New York City to stay.
you were pretty good with that tour because Stuba was walking us around like an actual museum tour guide. And to your, I'm serious.
Yeah.
And he had like little brochures he made.
But then
for
my
each
wife
one of
put
us.
that together, yeah, because we meditated a lot because we live right here in the middle of it. You know, every time I step out my door, I think of Prabhupada. You know, because he was
what's really
living
cool-
in that building.
You know what's really cool is right around the corner is this other building that Kostuba pointed out was it's like this small sort of decrepit Art Deco building.
Yeah,
And Kostuba then would read a quote how Prabhupada saw this building and wanted to make a center there, a temple, a restaurant. You got to understand, here's a man who's pretty much like 5 minutes from homeless, you know, and he's
he
like
was living in a tiny little office. It wasn't even like a real
Yeah.
apartment.
Yeah, and he's looking at this building. He's calling the realtor. I mean, every self-help guru should take advice from Srila Prabhupada in this regard. He saw this building. He's like, this is where my temple is going to go. And he talked to the guy. He even got the money for it. That's the amazing thing. He approached the wealthiest, one of the wealthiest families in India. They agreed to pay for the building for me. He had no followers whatsoever. And I'm not talking about Instagram. I mean, in real life, he had no followers.
Okay.
And they got the money for it, but the government of India wouldn't, I don't know why, wouldn't let them transfer the funds out of
Yeah,
India.
I
I
mean-
think some countries won't do that.
You know, that for me, that was the highlight of the tour, right? And that's where, in one sense, when I was taking everyone around, I was thinking it's I thought it might just be like not the most exciting part of the tour.
Yeah.
Because you know, I showed it was 4 places, right? One was where he lived in 2 different places. He lived in at 100 West 72nd Street. He lived in a yoga studio, and then he lived in an office, right? And he spent most of that 6 months in that building. Then there was the place where he originally stayed, which was Dr. Mishra, who later became Brahmananda Saraswati, his place on West End Avenue. That's where we first kind of arrived. And I think, you know, he was kind of like politely, but, you know, kind of moved out of there. It's like it became a little inconvenient to have the Swami around or something like that. So he moved him over. You could go live in my yoga studio, right?
Yeah.
And then there was a little place where Prabhupada would go shopping, the West End Superette, which is still there after all these
It's
years.
amazing. Same
Yeah.
superette little market.
And then there was the building that you're talking about now, which was the building that Prabhupada, he scoped it out and he had a desire, right, that I want to offer this to Krishna. I want to make this to Krishna temple and like a restaurant. He had all these plans and he just couldn't get any help. And he like you say, he got the funds. He was writing to his godbrothers who were like influential swamis. And he's saying, can you just help me, like petition the government? You know, we can build a temple for Krishna here. The people will, you know, they'll take to this message. He was just trying so hard. You know, it's because we have his diaries and we have his letters from those times, you can see where his mind and his heart was at. And I think Radha Swami really keyed in on that, you know?
Like nothing was easy.
Yeah.
It was like you are up against like a Himalayan peak in your, in your underwear. Like I'm supposed to climb this thing, and he just did it. As a matter of fact, when they wouldn't transfer the money, the Indian government wouldn't let them. He went to the owner of the building and said, "We want you to, and this is written in his diary. We want you to donate this building to Krishna for our center." And he said that the owner of the building was not. What was the
He
word?
was disagreeable.
It was disagreeable. He goes, and then Prabhupada expressed his heart. He goes, when the owner wrote that, I was mortified.
Yeah.
Like me. And
No.
why
What
does
he
it-
saw was he said he saw that eventually he saw that somebody else had moved into that building, and he said,
yeah,
"I am
someone-
mortified."
and it's revealing into like a great soul, like a saint's heart. Like, what are the things that mortify me? Uh, Death, dead bodies, horrible things, incredible loss, tragedy. And what's mortified about him is not like he doesn't have a place to stay. It's like, I came here all this way to make this offering to Krishna, and this is not going to happen, and it's devastating. I can't serve Krishna. Like the attachment to serve Guru and Gauranga, or Guru and God, so to speak.
Yeah.
It seems like it's not going to happen. What I'm an
He
old
was
man.
living in a bear office, right? He wasn't wanting something for himself. He was wanting something to in the service of his guru, in the service of humanity, in the service of God. He had this desire. You know, I often think there's a story from that same time when it's such an interesting time of Prabhupada's stay where he was all alone. He didn't, like you're saying, like just after this, he goes downtown and he's living on the Bowery. It's a complete Skid Row, but people begin to, like, young people step forward and start to help him. But here he was kind of all alone. It was kind of like, an uptown Swami kind of scene, and nobody was, it's like everything was more like superficial, and nobody was really behind it.
You know what the deal is? Because uptown is sort of like the higher class, wealthy.
It's more like a hobby they're interested in.
Yeah, the Swami smokes cigarettes, right?
Oh, well, that's another thing.
That's another Swami.
The other
the same
Swami.
Okay.
There was, but there's
But
another.
that was like a fashion in uptown.
That's the point. It was more of a
Wealthy people to
fashion
have
than
a guru,
yeah.
even in like the 1920s and 1930s. Did you know there's a huge, there was a huge like ashram in Nyack, New York? Have you ever read that
there are
book?
different things. Yeah, I knew the lady that wrote that book. Actually, I used to do yoga with her.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but my point was
Go on.
that there's a story from that time that someone told, and it was written in Prabhupada's biography, that someone had met Prabhupada in Central Park, and I assume it's like just kind of right outside my door, right? Because they're so nearby. It's probably in those benches that are like as soon as you enter near Strawberry Fields there, in Central Park. That's where I pictured in my mind, because I figured it was probably in that area. And just a stranger was sitting with Srila Prabhupada and saying, well, tell me about yourself. And Prabhupada was saying, well, I come from this tradition and so on and so forth. And he says, and I have hundreds of temples all around the world. He said, really? He said, yes, but just time separates it. Right.
That's where that famous statement was from.
Yeah.
Just time separates it.
And so he had this vision of service to his guru, and you can see his heart was so deeply set on it, that he says, I was mortified when that he said, okay, I'm going to make this building. This is going to be the first offering, right? This will be the first temple. We can do such a beautiful thing with this, and it didn't go through, and it was somehow. It might sound attached, but his attachment, we say this kind of attachment is the good attachment, right? He was attached to pleasing God, to serving others. And it felt, it didn't happen. But shortly after that happened, he was downtown and a whole new thing started, right? So you never know. But in any case, it's a little bit heart-wrenching when you think of him all alone like that. And
I know it is. How did he end up downtown in the first place?
Because there's that person, Robert Nelson. Do you remember him? He used to be in the Brooklyn Temple. He got initiated. His name became Jagannath something. And he was just really nice guy, simple guy, and he was a younger person at the time. And he was coming up to hear Prabhupada speak, and he said, I think there are people downtown that'll be interested in your message.
Oh, yes, I remember him.
He lined him up with that artist who had a loft on the Bowery. And so Prabhupada lived with him for a few weeks, and then that guy freaked out on acid, and Prabhupada had to just run for his life.
But isn't it amazing what a key character? We knew that guy. What a key character he was to bringing Prabhupada downtown, which flipped the whole switch.
It did. It did.
Oh, my God. What a key. It's amazing what a key role that person played. Why don't you come downtown?
Yeah. He was a sweet guy, too. Anyway, it was a beautiful day. I'm so happy that you and Mara came down. Doyle was there. Doyle Garunga from the Bhakti Center.
And your wife was great, too.
And I had a chance to serve you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
It's my pleasure.
I was truthfully, I was very tired yesterday. After, you usually eat that much bread and something right after the meal. It was a delicious meal, but after the meal, I was like, and you were like, Maharaj, you want to go for the tour? Or do you want to take a little nap? I was like, please say take a nap. Please say take a nap. Please. He's like, well, let's go for the tour. I was like, oh no. I was like, always, I was ready to, if he said take a nap, I would have crawled right under that table, just take a nap right there. I was so
It-
tired.
But I had another nice moment with Maharaj where, like, because then I was walking you guys around and showing you around. And he said, like, this is kind of a, this is a, I forget what word he used, but like the neighborhood, he was saying, like, this is a special neighborhood in New York, something like that. Like, and then he said, how did you get that apartment? Right? Like, how did a loser like you, like, get an apartment in this neighborhood? Right? And I said, I was like, I answered the question. I said, well, the COVID set in and all the prices came down, and I managed to get in. But then after you left, we dropped you off at the subway station, and then he said, I'm going to walk the two of you home, and then we'll go downtown. So he walked us to our apartment, and I said, well, anyway, Mars, you get a taxi on the corner. I'm going to walk you to the corner. So we walked to the corner of Central Park West, right? And when you hit Central Park West, it does feel like this is a ritzy, posh area.
Yeah. That's where the Dakota is. And
Yeah, everything on Central Park West. And so then it made me think what Maharaj had said earlier, like, how did you get an apartment in this neighborhood? And it's a fact that many times I wake up and say, how did I get here? It's like, I never, and so I said to him, I said, Maharaj, you asked me how I got this apartment. And the fact is, I didn't get it. Krishna just somehow gave it, and I think it's just because somehow I'm just trying to stay, like, in your service, like Krishna somehow takes
good
care
answer.
of one.
Good answer.
Somehow Krishna
Siva.
takes care. Whatever it is, whatever he gives, it'll be enough. Somehow he takes care of one. And in any case, it was so nice to see. That was always a tradition that I would always have him over and feed him whenever he's in New York. And it had been a few years because of COVID, so it was nice to have all of you and have that
It was
opportunity
great.
to
We had
serve.
a nice little wisdom of the sages meeting. He inspired
Yeah.
us. And I will say, for those watching on YouTube or Zoom, you can't even fully get a picture of Kastuba's apartment. It is the cleanest, most organized apartment. It is like Kastuba in an apartment form. It's like clean and
It's like keeping my
organized. I
wife.
was like, how do people? Do you guys even live here?
It's not clean. It's like spotless.
It's like
but there's no
spotless.
speck
It's
of
like
dust.
this
I'm ready
every
to throw
day.
my kids in that apartment for a week just to get you back to Earth. It is like a higher planet there.
It's my wife. It's not so much me. It's her. But the fact is, it's like this every day. It's not like she just does this because you are all coming over. It's like it's always
exactly
like
what
that.
That's what I'm
said
talking
too.
about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And I was also
I was like,
thinking
where
of
do
you,
you-
Mara, because it was about 2 years ago that Mara, vegan trucker, who else? David Charles Wilson all came over and helped me move from my old apartment to this apartment, and I was thinking about that. Yep, true friends. True friends. They help you move, right?
Cheers.
All right.
On to Death Week.
Okay. You're gonna read the Death
Oh,
Nugget?
Oh wait,
Oh,
before
announcements.
Make announcements before this.
Okay.
For our Patreon members, we have an asana class with Michelle Berger at 3 p.m. today.
Okay.
There's Bhakti Recovery Group meetings today at 1 and 9:30 p.m.
Okay.
And then we have some schedule mix-ups. So there's
Schedule.
no show tomorrow.
Get a little closer to that mic, Mara.
Okay,
Little-
there's no show tomorrow. Thursday's show is canceled. And then Friday, we're going to do our show at 8 a.m.
Okay.
Sleep in Friday.
All right.
You
We're
give
gonna
me a
we-
nugget, sir.
Are we gonna be on at 8 a.m. like from then on? Like, is that the plan when you're in India?
What
We're not
time
sure
is it?
yet.
What time is 8 a.m.?
5:30 p.m. India time.
We don't know. Here's the deal, people. I love you all.
It may bounce
But-
around a bit.
It's gonna bounce around. Get ready for a rocky road for
3
for
weeks
2
or so.
weeks. It's just
Okay.
like you can't always plan stuff on pilgrimage.
But 8 a.m. tomorrow. I mean,
No.
not tomorrow. Friday. Sorry about that.
No show tomorrow.
No show tomorrow.
8 a.m.
Okay.
on Friday.
And
All
if
right.
you're a Patreon member, you can sign up to subscribe to the calendar. And I'm going to give Nityananda Chandra all the updates as we have them. So if it's last minute and you're not sure if there's a show, you can check out the calendar.
It's worth joining Patreon just for the calendar. Okay. You didn't send me the nuggets, sir.
Oh, did I not send it? Okay, well, I'll read it to you.
Okay.
This is from your favorite.
Elizabeth Kubler-Ross.
Exactly.
Ooh.
Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, author of
On Death and Dying.
On Death and Dying, which was a kind of a landmark book, right? Which I think it was there that established the 5 stages of grieving. Is that? where
Yeah, maybe.
I believe so. Okay, this is what she says. You ready? It is difficult to accept death in this society. In this society. Because it is unfamiliar.
Mm.
In spite of the fact that it happens all the time,
It's we
we
keep
never
it
see
under
it.
wraps.
We never see it. Yeah, that's what she says. What do you say about that, Raghunath?
What do I say about that? Yeah, we keep it under wraps.
We keep it under wraps.
We keep it under wraps. We don't talk about it. It's that's why I think it's important to do things like
Put your life on the line.
go to graveyards.
Drive
Go
too
to
fast.
graveyards. Go to graveyards. You know what my meditation was on this morning?
What?
Pompeii.
You have a little fascination with that Pompeii, don't you?
Well, Pompeii when Vesuvius erupted, it's just sort of like,
how did it happen so fast? I don't
you know what?
understand.
It was noxious gases and ash came because some people actually got out, but the noxious gases and ash like just trapped them and then just killed them on the spot, and then all of a sudden they started getting covered, and then preserved, so to speak. So it was like one of the greatest archaeological finds ever, when they actually dug it up or discovered it, because everything was preserved. The artwork, graffiti on the wall, so they learned like vulgar Latin instead of like the formal Latin. Like furniture was preserved, the foods they ate, their body. It was because Pompeii was like a wealthy town too, so it showed how these people lived.
And they're kind of like in the middle of doing it. It wasn't like they were all like running for their life, right? They were kind of like just going about their day, kind of.
The bodies of Pompeii victims have been covered in layers of fine ash that calcified over the centuries, forming a type of protective shell. When the skin and tissue of the Pompeii bodies eventually decayed, all that was left were voids in the layer of ash around them, in the exact shape of the victims in their final moments.
Did they make like
molds?
Molds, yeah. Did they do that?
Yeah, things were perfect molds. Yeah, I mean it's quite fascinating.
Okay, but before we get too fascinated, if I could tie it in, let's.
Well, I'm tying it in. I'm tying it in like this.
Yeah.
Pompeii can happen any moment. You know what I mean?
3,000
years from now, we can find you sitting in front of a microphone, frozen in time. Yeah. Yes, like that. Just like that. Imagine that. Look what we found. It looks like a microphone and earplugs, and the place is immaculate. On top of that, the place is really clean. Yeah, and hurricane. Well, some of these come without warning, but these things come without warning sometimes. Another thing was tsunamis. Tsunami. Oh my God. Where's my tsunami page?
It hit so fast, right?
Okay. Yeah. Tsunamis. You know what? Ever study about Krakatoa? It was like 150-foot wave in Indonesia. Unbelievable stuff. I lost my page. Krakatoa, Portugal, where Sega's from. Got hit by tsunamis. These they're just destroyed.
And besides that, you could just step out in the corner and get hit by a bus at any point, right?
And that too. Well, and imagine all of a sudden an earthquake happens. You're like, wow. Also, Messina, Italy, like in the 1800s, I think. Lisbon, Portugal, 1755.
Okay, Rogan, we get it. People have died throughout the ages.
Like an earthquake. You're like, wow, I made it past the earthquake. And next thing you know, a half hour later, a tsunami comes. 40,000 people could go in a moment.
Okay.
This material world is completely precarious.
That's an important point.
That's the idea here. And Narottam Das Thakur says, our life is like a drop of water on a lotus petal.
A waxy leaf.
A waxy leaf, right? Did you ever drop water on a lotus? It makes like a bead and rolls off. And we think, oh, there's my stability. This is my family home. This is my bank account. These are my vehicles. These are my children. This is my family lineage. Like this, we're a delicate little ball that could roll off at any second.
We don't like to think about that.
No, we like to think there's some stability. We even train our kids like, hey, the world is safe. It's a good place. Don't worry out there. But, and this is the interesting thing, when you have little kids, it's a parent's job to give them some type of security. Mom, I think there's a monster in my closet. There's no monster in the closet, Ray Ray. Go upstairs with your flashlight. Look, I'm going to open the door. Here's the light. See, no one's in there. That's just the wind. Ray Ray. That's what I was called.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And every time, let's go in the basement and get that for Mama. No, I don't go to the basement. Okay, look, I'll turn on the lights. I'll stand at the top of the stairs. Everything's safe.
Okay.
Everything is safe. And then the kid gets a little older, and your 14-year-old daughter is going to a party, and all of a sudden you're like, who's going to be at that party? Are there going to be older kids at the party? Are the parents home? Because then you get through this thing with a good parent will be like, it's not safe. It's not safe out there. There's actually bad people out there. And that's when a parent starts to like, put that type of, all of a sudden you try to raise this kid to be everything's cool, everything's safe. And then you have to start saying, actually, the reality of the situation is it's not safe. And now I would like to take those parents and say, it's really not safe. It's really not safe. Not to put people in more anxiety, but this is what we're living with at every moment. Collapse can happen at any time. The apocalypse can happen at any time.
Note that down there. Okay,
Okay.
you love speaking about this right now. I can see.
Well, I'm just saying it's not like it's far-fetched.
No,
people at
that's the
Pompeii,
point, right? It's happening
people at
like
Pompeii were worshiping the fire god. Do you know that? Because there
Okay.
was tremors happening, so they feel like, you know what? We're just going to appease the fire god. Doesn't matter. The fire god can get angry quick, and then
okay.
everything can end.
That's right. And so as Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was saying, in spite of the fact that it happens all the time, it's happening all the time, but we've created a society where we hardly see it, right? But we need to be aware of it. That's the point. And not afraid of it, but living a life so that we're prepared for it. We're reading this story. The Bhagavatam's trying to say, hey, come on, think about it. Think about it, right? Think about your death and what it's going to be like. For so many people, it's like this. For the materialist, it's like this. You suffer. You go through this stage where you're experiencing fear in some kind of like surreal kind of way. It's like nothing's have you been around people and seen that or felt that before that are dying? I told you that story once. I think I did it on the show about when I saw someone get shot. Remember that story, Ragnar? When I was a kid, I was riding. A friend of mine and I were riding our bikes up Park Avenue South.
Yeah.
And as we're riding from the side street comes like a car just like speeding. It turns a corner and smashes. It tries to turn up to go uptown, but it can't make the turn. It was going so fast.
Yeah.
And it crashed like into like a lamppost or something.
Yeah.
And two guys got out of that car and fled. And they ran into a store. They were being chased by the police right behind them.
Oh my God, you witnessed this?
Yeah, I've told you this before, right now.
All right.
And then
I don't listen to everything.
I know. That's what I was thinking of saying that, but I held back.
Even though I'm nodding sometimes,
Okay.
don't expect that I'm just listening and taking it in.
Okay. So these two guys, they made a big tactical mistake. Is they ran for some reason. They thought maybe. I mean, you just crashed your car in front of this building. They ran inside this store that was right there.
That's like a dead end, man.
And it
Don't they
practically
know the basics of fleeing a scene?
Well, they figured that out like almost as soon as they got in. So then they turned around and started running out. But the cops were there by that time.
Okay.
And this was like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid or something. Like they're running out. The cops are waiting for them right there. And my friend and I, we you know how like in Park Avenue they have those like big cement like planters that they put
Yes.
big plants in.
Yes.
So we're right there, and we're ducking behind that planter, watching the whole thing unfold. It was like front row seats,
All right.
And these two guys come running out of that place, out of that store. It was like an art store or something like that. They come running out, and the cops are waiting right there. They have guns in their hands. And the cop shot one of them. One of them kind of got around the corner, like managed to not get shot immediately. But one of them got shot. And I was looking right. I was
His face?
practically like looking right in his eyes.
Was he looking in your eyes?
No.
Oh,
But
just you two standing next to each other.
we had a
looking in
moment,
each other's
Raghunath. We
eyes.
had a moment.
Then I hit him with a pillow.
No, actually, but it was actually heartbreaking because I could. It was almost like time slowed down.
He just made a few bad choices in his life.
Well, this was, and when I felt something. It was like uncanny or like really profound. I really felt him. I felt his like what's the word I'm looking for? It was like his dread, I suppose, but it was like kind of
dread.
But it was like a dread that was like kind of like like I suppose I felt like he was feeling like this is what it all comes to. It was all for nothing. Like my whole life.
Like this is life. This is it.
Yeah, this is it.
That's
This
probably how they felt when Vesuvius erupted. It must have been like, oh, and now I'm gonna die under lava.
right. Right.
Things were going so well.
But I really actually in that moment it's hard to describe, and this is like, but I felt his dread and his I really wish I had the right word for it.
Hopelessness.
Yeah, it was like a hopelessness or like a kind of futility. You're dancing all around it. But I think there's where it's just kind of like it was like it had part
despondency.
Like giving up as well was part of it, like
resignation.
Resignation.
Oh,
Thank you, David
Charles
Wilson. Yeah,
Damn
resignation.
I should have got that. I should have got that.
It was this resignation of like life sucks and this is it. And everything that I tried for, everything that I hoped for, it never came about.
Even this whole bank robbery thing, I really thought I would get away with. It just didn't work out. I ran into that art store. Oh,
but it was one of the most profound experiences I've had with death, where I felt and now we're seeing the king is going through this, right? Who was apparently like, successful and so on, but it's that you get trapped because you made yourself unfamiliar with this time, because you didn't see your life in the context of this moment and you weren't preparing for it. And by preparing for death, we don't mean that like you give up on life. No, you live life full, but in truth, so that you're not in that horrible melancholy, resignation, fear state. But you're like,
it's like Prabhupada was like, Prabhupada's in New York. How can I serve my guru? It's like, it's one of those things. It's like, you feel like, okay, I'm going to die. If today I'm going to die, then at least I'm dying serving my guru and Krishna.
There you go.
We want to be like that. We want to be like that in this world. At least I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
What's really sad is dying and feel like, I never did what I should have done.
Never got it.
I never got it. I never like accelerated the process. How can I accelerate the process? How can I please the devotees and Krishna? How can I move forward? How can I figure out what these are like important questions? What am I doing here? What am I supposed to offer in this world? Life is short. What am I born to do? And can I do it? Even if it's not perfect, and even if I didn't finish it, at least I'm going to die trying.
Okay. Well, why don't we zoom in now on King Puranjan and see where he's at in the moment of his death?
Okay. I'm worked up.
I know. It's good.
Worked up. It's not even 7 in the morning, and I'm like sweating. I tell you, when I talk, I like exude heat and wetness.
Okay. Mayor's like backing off a little bit.
Wetness. Sorry, Prabhu.
Okay, hit it, Raghu.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. Unto Narayan, Rishi, the supermost human being. Unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning. And to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesh vabhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama bhakti rubhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance to classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome in the heart will become eradicated. And loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Midatam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Hare Krishna.
You know what I was thinking, Raghunath?
I'm going to say a prayer at Radhakund for all our Wisdom of Sages listeners.
Say a prayer for that guy that got shot coming out of that store, too.
I will.
Do that. Do that for me, Raghunath.
Well, I will.
Because what I was thinking was, you know what it was? It was like I'm saying, it was different. It was a feeling like it felt like time stood still for a second. But what I think it was in that moment, it's like your mask complete. Like I probably saw a facial expression on him that he never showed anyone in the world, right? That he never felt so deeply. In that moment, it was like such an intense feeling that the mask that you normally put on was completely gone.
Yeah, the Pompeii face, I call it. And you're like, what? All right. Like the resignation.
Yeah, that resignation, the fear, the resignation, this blend. I probably never saw a look like that. He probably never showed a face like that in his life, and it was so unique that I felt it. You know, it was so different.
Like those Pompeii people, it's like they're like rocking babies or eating breakfast. Like the spoon is at the mouth. Like, oh yeah, okay,
All right.
yes.
Okay, now
You
let's.
saw it. You witnessed it.
I witnessed it.
That's
Let's hear about King Puranjan. Where are we at, Mayor?
Reading from Canto 4, chapter 28, text 18.
Text
Thank you,
18.
Mara.
He's dying right now. His body's falling apart.
King Puranjana was anxiously thinking, alas, my wife is encumbered by so many children. When I pass from this body, how will she be able to maintain all these family members? Alas, she will be greatly harassed by the thoughts of family maintenance. This is a real thing. This happens.
Yeah.
I remember when I was talking to Dhanasham, our pastor who comes on the show a lot. He told me, because I was asking him for advice on how to speak to Gopal Chandra when Gopal Chandra was leaving his body. And he was saying, you got to get him out of the future and the past and which is really what we're supposed to do with everyone.
But that's
right,
what you're practicing your meditation. That's what you're doing, right?
That's where, but when a person is dying, they're riddled with worries for the future. Like, what's going to happen to my children? What's going to happen? How is my mother going to deal?
Raghunath, you're thinking like Bhagavatam. Because this text is dealing with the future. Text 18. What's going to happen to my family? What's going to happen to my kids? I'm not here for them. How can they exist without me?
And the problem is, it's cheating me out of my meditation. And I was like, all I had to say was, that's all. I was trained to say, Prabhu, that's all it's going to be taken care of. You don't have to worry about that. You have one thing to worry about. I know you feel like you've got a lot of debts to your friends and family and loved ones. I got news for you. Those debts are over. You have one debt now. And that is a debt that Krishna has given you. And it's a debt of love. And your meditation should be on Krishna, nothing else. And that was like my constant mantra. Get out of that.
Good job, Raghunath.
You know what? It was a special time in my life, that passing of Gopal Chandra.
Yeah, you were there for him.
What a year this was. What a year this has been. What a year.
Okay, Raghunath.
Oh, my God.
Well, Raghunath, every year is going to be something special happening in your life.
Hare Krishna.
No, you have service to do. But that verse, text 18, that was talking about his mind being caught up in the future. Text 19, mind being caught up with regrets of the past. That's another place the mind goes.
What have I done? Why wasn't I more serious about my spiritual life?
Why did I treat people the way I treated them?
Why didn't I say, I'm sorry? How could this have been? I should have done it differently. It's over. Past is over.
Text 19.
Okay. Was that a nice way of saying just start reading?
No, because this is going to speak exactly to what you're speaking. Everything that you have to say, you're going to have more to say after you read this.
Okay. King Puranjana then began to think of his past dealings with his wife. He recalled that his wife should not take her dinner until would not take her dinner until he had finished his. That's like the thing in India, they serve you don't sit
That's
down.
That's how I served you yesterday.
Everybody's that's how you serve, right? There's always somebody standing. That's like the tradition. There's always someone standing doing the serving out. It's not like there's a big bowl of food in the middle
with a lazy Susan in the middle of the table.
Spinning that lazy Susan around. Hey, pass the salad. No, you never have to say pass the salad at an Indian table.
Someone brings it around.
They're always coming around with prasad.
Okay.
A whole different world.
Recalled that his wife would not take her dinner.
Yeah. That she would not take her bath until he had finished his. And that she was always very much attached to him. So much so that if he would sometimes become angry and chastise her, she would simply just remain silent and tolerate his misbehavior. Oh, listen to this patriarchal society.
But he's regretting it. He's saying, I didn't appreciate it. She was so kind and selfless.
And she didn't lose.
I didn't appreciate it. Yeah. But now listen, he says more here in text 20.
King Puranjana continued thinking how when he was in a state of bewilderment, his wife would give him good counsel and how she would become aggrieved when he was away from home. Although she was the mother of so many sons and heroes, the king still feared that she would not be able to maintain the responsibility of household affairs.
That you see, so now, Back to the Future again, right? He went to the past. Oh, I regret she was so good to me, and I was never good enough to her. Why was I like that? And now what's gonna happen when I go? It's past, future, past, future.
Because Stuba, you hit me with the Vesuvius
What did I do?
gong yesterday.
What happened? What did I do?
You don't remember?
No, well, I don't remember breaking out the Vesuvius gong.
The Vesuvius gong, like the wake up gong,
Yeah, what did I say?
was like, you're like, oh yeah, cool. And you're gonna, because your wife is coming to the eco village when we're gonna be there.
Yeah.
And she goes, yeah, I'm coming the 10th. I was like, yeah, my birthday is the 11th. And you're like, how old are you gonna be? And I was like, I'm gonna be 50. And I was like, ooh,
Gong, gong.
I was like, I'm gonna be
57.
57. And you're like, oh man, you're like not in your mid 50s anymore.
Yeah,
You're
57
like,
means you may as well just say 60.
You might as well say at this point you're a 60-year-old man.
Right. Like 56 is like, okay, I'm in my mid 50s, but like 57 is like, okay, you're 60.
Yeah, it's you round up.
Yeah, you're rounded up. At
The
that point.
Vesuvius gong, the gong of life. Greg
Okay, so
Gaines
he's going
is-
back and forth
yeah,
between
you're old too, Greg.
but now this future worry is such a deep dread that people feel. What's going to happen when I go? Right? Read text 21. This is more of this stuff.
I don't think you fully understand what 57 is yet, because this is
Well,
it.
not
We're
57
gonna
yet.
I can't fool myself any longer. Like this is the approaching the finish line.
Okay. Right. Yeah, everything's so dramatic today.
Do you hear that, Mara? Just pushing me along. Text 21.
Text 21 right now.
Hare Krishna. King Paranjana continued worrying. After I pass from this world, how will my sons and daughters, who are now fully dependent on me, live and continue their lives? Their position will be similar to that of passengers aboard a ship wrecked in the midst of the ocean.
Oh,
Right? You're going to be helpless.
They're gonna be helpless with that.
So your mind goes right to your dependence. How isn't it interesting? Like, how can the world, what to speak of my dependence, how can the world even go on without me? I got news for you. It can and it will. The world will go on. They're going to just pick things up as if you never even existed. It's going to happen immediately at the funeral. Like
The world goes on without us.
They're going to be lamenting, wearing their black veils, black dresses, black stockings.
All of it.
Yeah, that was an inside joke from yesterday. Black
2 days.
stockings. All right, and they're going to be right. And they're going to be lamenting. Everybody's going to be crying, and in a moment, they're going to be like eating chips and dip, laughing at your funeral. You ever laugh at a funeral? Like all the mourning's over, and then you're like talking, and then you just laugh, and you feel almost guilty for laughing. But life just goes on so quick. Not only they're just gonna, it's just gonna, and it's not like the world's gonna pause for a week and mourn. It's gonna go on as fast as it ever did.
You know what this reminds me? We were talking about it yesterday too, Raghunath.
Yeah.
It's kind of like there are these heartbreaking stories from Ellis Island, right?
Oh yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah. So
Heartbreaking stories from Ellis Island where they would just be like, "I'm sorry, you have lice. We're sending you back on the
yeah,
boat.
it's
Your wife can stay, but you have to go back."
it's like your wife can say you got to go. It's like a family, they sell everything they have so that they can get on this boat, right? They know when they get to America, who knows how I'm going to earn a living, but it's got to be better than
it's
here, right? So let me
unbelievable.
go. So you risk everything. You get on that boat. Then the first thing they do is they bring you to this little island and you get processed through it. And then they say, you know what? You can stay and your loved one here, they can't. And you're never going to see each other again, ever. And right at that moment, you get cut off and you're separated. That's what death is like, right? It's like,
yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
and unless you have that spiritual knowledge, it's like unbearable. Look, like the way that the king's thinking, it's like they're on a boat in the middle of the ocean that's going to sink and there's nothing that I can do about it. That fear, that dread. Oh, it's just too much.
You know what's a great movie? The Titanic.
Okay, right.
I'm serious. There's something about that ship going down that is incredibly Krishna conscious. Did I watch the whole thing? I did watch the whole thing, but it was something Krishna conscious about that movie. Like, yep, and this is life. The iceberg of death is coming. destroying love and romance. Even and there was like the violins are playing as the ship is going down.
Oh, that was a moving thing.
That was
wasn't
it was good.
Yeah.
Good movie.
So
One of
any
the few
case,
movies I made it through. I impressed Mara with that one.
but any case, it's a fact. Like, we are vulnerable. Like, imagine how vulnerable those immigrants felt. That, like, I'm going to arrive here, and someone else is going to make a judgment, and I may never see my loved ones again, ever, right? And we're both going to be stuck in total poverty. In one sense, we
my
are
God.
as helpless as that as we move through life. It's only spiritual knowledge which saves us from that.
And it's
even
not just like you can text them, hey, I'm going to text you when you get where you're getting deported back to Italy, or like
Yeah.
my parents, my grandparents came to Ellis Island. They all made it through. I still have their papers, but it's just like, okay, Dad didn't make it through. We're going to text him, hey, Dad, we're trying to get you on the next boat or something like that. No, it's just sort of like you write letters to a village where they have no postal system practically, and you just never see these family members again.
Yeah.
The whole material world is sad. I'm
Okay.
talking about this.
But going back to our nugget, we need to familiarize ourselves with that. That's why in India, you watch the body burn, There's a place in the town where they're burning bodies all the time sometimes,
Oh
like
my
you're going to
God.
Puri, right? They have that place Swargadwar, right?
Swargadwar.
Yeah, by the
It's
ocean.
the door to Swarga, the door to heaven.
Yeah.
Swargadwar. Isn't that a cool name?
And they're burning the bodies there every day, right? You can
I'm
see
so
it.
excited to go to Puri.
Maybe you should do a Swargadwar edition of the show.
You know what? Let's do what we're going to do it live at Swargadar. Here I am,
Live from
bodies are burning
Swargadwar.
behind me. Live at Swargadar. Let's take the camera over there. Hare Krishna. Okay.
Let's not make light of it, but still.
Let's not make light of it.
But still, maybe you can go there and spend a little time there and come back and report to us.
Yes, maybe. Maybe we
right.
can watch bodies burn. You got any other? You should, man.
Learning
you should
is
host.
learning.
You should host tours. For the first day on our trip, we're going to watch bodies burn.
I mean, people do that. People go to those places to see it, to watch it, and yogis do it. That's what I'm saying. Gyanis do it.
Okay. Well, let's ask Cindy Lunsford if she wants to go. Whatever she wants to do. And Tom Essig. All right.
One more.
Text 22. Although King Puranjana should not have lamented over the fate of his wife and children, he nonetheless did so due to his miserly intelligence. In the meantime, Yavanaraj, whose name was fear itself, immediately drew near to arrest him. So that's it.
He's getting pulled out.
Getting pulled out by fear.
So it says here, the term in Sanskrit says kripanaya buddhya, miserly intelligence, right? In other words, his intelligence didn't expand to embrace anyone except his family, let's say, right? So he's got these very deep attachments of, let's call it lowercase love, right?
Small L love.
Yeah, small. Kripana mentality is lowercase love. Well, I love my children. What about everybody else?
Postulate 31.
Postulate 31. What about everybody else? I don't care so much about them. That's a Kripana intelligence. It means we haven't understood spirit yet, right? We haven't understood that the spirit, the quality of the spirit within one living entity is the same as the quality of the spirit within another. And it's only due to external reasons that I become particularly attached to this person, right? Someone that whose intelligence has expanded, that's seeing on that spiritual level, they're not going to be in the King Puranjana's position right now, where he's experiencing this particular type of deep lamentation at the time of death. Prabhupada writes, he says, foolish people do not know that every individual soul is responsible for their own actions and reactions in life. Right? In other words, he's thinking, oh, it was because of me that they were maintained, and once I'm gone, they will not be maintained anymore.
How is anybody going to live without
me?
That's like the most self-centered thing we could ever think of.
People are going to be eating potato chips with dip at your funeral.
They're going to be dipping into spicy salsa when you die.
Okay.
I can just see you at my body burning, like, okay, where's the dip? I was like, give me 5 more minutes of lamentation, Kastuba.
I'll be Raghunath. If I'm there at your body burning, I'm going to be feeling a very special blend
You're going to be lassies on me.
of bittersweetness, of feeling, oh, I'm going to miss him so much, but knowing he went back to Goloka. He's an elderly. Right now he's churning butter as an elderly gopi in Vrindavan for Krishna. You know, and he's going to take that lump of butter and he's going to say, hey, adorable little Krishna, here, I got some butter for you. I know I'll be knowing that that's exactly what you're doing at that
I'll
moment.
give you vision. I'll give you vision. I'll give you
Oh, that'd be great.
into the spiritual world.
Thank you.
With Raghunath,
I'm looking forward to that.
dressed as a gopi in the spiritual world.
Elderly gopi with motherly love in my heart.
All right. Well, that's the show.
All
We
right.
need some goodies to put in our goodie basket, Mara. What you got?
When is he going to tire of that, Mara?
Takeaways here.
He's going to forget about that at some point.
I know. Be attached to serving devotees, guru, and God.
Yeah. That's what Prabhupada was in wanting to make an offering in that building. Yeah, connection, yeah.
Pompeii can happen at any moment.
Boom!
Oh, yeah.
The Pompeii gong, the Vesuvius gong. Did you use the Vesuvius gong for any takeaway? Goodie.
No.
Let's see.
Okay, well that's it.
Our life is like a drop of water on a lotus petal.
Sure is. Very, very precarious position.
Situated.
Familiarize yourself with death.
Familiarize yourself, Raghunath.
There's no safety or security in the material world.
This doesn't sound depressing.
I
This
know
is
they are
not
depressing.
good morning,
No, but this-
everybody. Can you give some upbeat ones? We're trying to start our day.
Okay.
Okay.
Collapse or apocalypse can happen at any moment.
What?
And
We're gonna
people.
lose so many followers after today's show.
Live life fully and in truth to prepare for death.
Okay, that was almost positive, but then it got negative at the end.
So you can die. Oh my God.
It's only spiritual knowledge that saves us from the pain of separation.
Kind
right,
of sounded
Liz.
good, but not really.
I'll leave the iceberg of death one out of here then.
What?
And
That was the Titanic. And
Wait, the iceberg of death is coming. What does it say?
it's coming
you're gonna hit it.
Destroy your love and romance.
You said
That's a
it.
good one. That's a good one. Read that full. Read that again.
The iceberg of death is coming, destroying all love and romance.
Okay, beautiful.
Oh my God.
And they're
Yeah.
gonna eat chips and salsa and laugh at your funeral.
Oh,
All right,
man.
there's some good news. They're gonna be
At least someone's happy.
7-Up at our funeral. Ugh.
All right, no show tomorrow. Safe travels, guys.